Within hours of the marathon bombings, corporations like John Hancock, Hill Holliday, and New Balance mobilized to aid victims and their families. They pledged millions to the newly created One Fund, which is now worth some $27 million and growing. The task of distributing that money falls to Kenneth Feinberg, who has overseen many other victim compensation funds. Here's what he said when he was introduced as the fund administrator last week.
The fabulous outpouring so far cannot begin to make all of these victims whole. And one has to make some important decisions on where to place this money in terms of eligibility in order to help those most in need.
Ken Feinberg will hold open meetings next week where anyone can voice their opinion on who should be eligible for compensation. Once he hears that, Feinberg says he'll make the call.
So as in 9/11, Virginia Tech, and Aurora, and other tragedies, I'll listen, and ultimately it's my call, and I'll take the heat. That goes with the territory.
All right, joining me are James Gallagher, Executive Vice President at John Hancock, and Michael Sheehan, the CEO of Hill Holliday. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
John, first of all, you had 200 volunteers working that day out on the streets, John Hancock, 150 people running. How is everybody? I know 2 people were seriously hurt. How are your people?
Asking. Well, we have 2 employees, and I'm very happy to report they were released from the hospital this weekend. They will have a long recovery. We're very eager to get them back to work, but we're grateful.
All right, that's good. That's good news, Jim. And how did this come about? Because I have to say, I was so relieved to hear that it happened so instantaneously and all at once, because there could be 1,000 of these funds going for every individual name. There still are a lot of them. And I was cruising through websites today. There are still a lot of bogus, I want to use that word, yes, bogus funds out there. So people should really, but how did it come together, Mike?
Well, it began on we had a conference call on Tuesday morning afterwards at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And
who all was on it?
Jim, his team from Hancock. I was on it with the folks from Hill Holliday. And the mayor and the governor wanted to start something. Jim took the ball and began the meeting by saying John Hancock will be the first contributor of $1 million. And I think it's all about momentum. All right, so we had that. He started with $1 million gift. That's a material gift for any corporation to give, but it set the tone for everything. And the mayor was going to have a 5 o'clock press conference that day where he was going to announce it, and so that was the deadline. So we had the catalyst to begin it. We had a deadline of 5 o'clock, and we got to work at naming it, logo, and setting up the system, which was all done in 7 hours.
And whose idea was it to bring in Ken Feinberg, who, we love him. He's just so amazing.
I think there were a number of players here. His name was shared in a lot of people's minds, and we certainly communicated that to the mayor's office, and indeed he was already thinking about that, and the call went out.
Now, I mean, the fact that your name is really on the marathon, John Hancock, I mean, that must have been the catalyst for doing that. But at the same time, were you thinking, well, you can't just, this is our city, you can't just let nothing happen?
Well, it would be disingenuous to say that the name being part of it was not connected, but this was our city. This was really an attack on Boston, the community. And we feel very much a part of that community and felt that we, along with others like Hill Holliday, needed to show our leadership and respond to local leadership to help people express their sense of community and giving to this fund and try and find a path forward to do the best and the most that we could collectively.
There's an ending to this, I should say, too, that Ken Feinberg is going to distribute the funds by July 4th. And we heard him say today that, people are going to come in and make their case, whether it should be just victims and their families or whether it should extend to businesses and that kind of thing. But he says, I'll be the judge, which, somebody has to be. So, I mean, you're fine with that, right? Whatever he determines? Absolutely,
because I think it has to be done decisively. It has to be done quickly. You're not going to help the victims and their families if it drags on for years. Yeah. And so it's and to have Ken, who has the experience doing this in the past, is a great advantage for us to get it done quickly and get the money in the hands of the families as quickly as possible.
Because other funds, as I understand it, weren't quite this organized. I mean, even 9/11, it was like there wasn't one fund. There were piles of them, and so he had to consolidate funds and figure. I mean, it wasn't just like, it wasn't neat, it wasn't tidy at all, right?
That's a big part of this, is having one it's endorsed by the governor, the mayor. It's 100% of the proceeds.
100%, yeah.
100%. There will be no expenses. 100% of the proceeds go to the victims and their families.
Yeah, how do you ward people off of some of these other kooky websites and stuff? Believe me, I found a number of them today. And they do things, oh, well, you're giving to a good cause. But basically the good cause is themselves.
Right.
And a portion of it is going to,
Right.
The victims.
Well, that was part of the rationale for really having this fund. It was being able to assure those who wanted to help that 100% would go to the victims. The mayor putting his name on it, the governor, and leadership in the community saying that we're invested in this, help us accomplish this objective. That was a natural draw. People, as you've seen, have come to it, and willingly and in large numbers, and it's continuing today.
So is there going to be a cutoff for contributions? Because what will happen come July 4th, because that's what they would like to distribute by then, will you shut it down? I mean, or will you continue it? I mean,
well,
how will that work?
There's two steps. So the first, what we gather by June 30th, will go out to the victims that the protocols that are designed by Mr. Feinberg in consultation with the community. He is going to hold some town halls to get input. That will go out, by the 4th of July. There will likely be funds that come in after that. So we will accumulate those by the end of August. We'll, whatever has been amassed by then goes out by Labor Day to the same victims in the same proportion that they received in the first tranche, and then perhaps that exhausts it. But the mayor has talked about how, if there are funds even after that, there may be some need to assist victims in accessing services and retaining the community and the help that they've been trying to collect for themselves in the past months that they've been trying to regain their health.
I mean, it's been so heartbreaking to read all those stories. I'm sure you all have been, just pulled into it the way we all have. And another story today about prosthetics and just the expense of it. And that was another fund, by the way. I shouldn't even get into that because that was some other bogus fund that was, trying to get money. But it was actually, they were selling prosthetics is what they were doing. Right. But I mean, just reading those stories, I mean, you think, oh my God, it could have been any one of us because everybody was right down there. And the enormity, I guess it was what I'm getting at. I mean, I can't imagine trying to be the person who had to decide what a leg is worth or an arm or losing your little boy. I mean, my gosh. It's got,
Ken has said it's gut-wrenching work. It's not easy at all, but somebody has to make those tough decisions. Yeah. And it's the good news is that the fund is growing, and it's well beyond what I ever imagined it would ever be. But it's never going to be enough money.
Are you both fine with it if some businesses feel like they've been severely financially impacted, maybe Marathon Sports or something like that?
Right now, the mayor is actually collecting some other resources to help those businesses. And as I say, after Labor Day, if there's a relatively small amount left in there that might be an opportunity to provide some other community assistance in recovering from this attack.
Have you both been down to the site?
I have not.
Oh yeah, I was.
Well, I live right down in the neighborhood, but it's really, I mean, to see it's heartwarming, I should say, to see not only people giving to that fund, but supporting the businesses on. I've never seen Boylston Street look like that.
When you think about it, the fund it's not just the financial assistance. This has been the community coming together. It's very therapeutic for the community, and the One Fund expresses that quite clearly.
We have not had to make a lot of phone calls. It's largely incoming to us.
I was on your site today. It's very easy to do, too.
I sit at my desk and I get emails from companies. They want to give $500,000.
Wow.
Yeah. It's one after another, 100,000, 50, 500. The corporations in Boston and nationally that have stepped up, in the London Marathon, around the world is just with material gifts. These are not immaterial gifts.
This is a good thing.
Yeah,
all right.
It really is.
Mike Sheehan, Jim Gallagher, thanks so much. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
All right. If you would like to give to those affected by the marathon bombings, go to the website onefundboston.org. All donations are tax deductible.